Okay, now let's talk a little bit more and talk about tangents and see what happens in different quarters to tangent and cotangent. So, as you know, you have to continue this angle, and where it meets the tan, it would be actually the tan of it. So, as you know, this is the tan of alpha. Tan of alpha. As you can see, the tan of alpha ends up being positive here. And once you continue it more, it's going to touch the cotan axis. And you can see that this is the cotan of alpha, which you can see is also positive. Now, look at this quarter. If you continue this to meet the cotan is easier. Let's do first cotan. And you can see that cotan ends up being negative in here. See, this is cotan. And it is negative. Let's find the tan. How do you think I would find the tan? If I move it this way, it's not going to meet the tan. So I have to continue this line to this way actually. And you can see that this is actually the tan of alpha, and you can see that this is negative as well. Now let's look at here. In order for this angle to meet a cotan or tan, I have to continue it like this. Let's say it's going to meet tan in here. Of course, this is the tan, and as you can see, the tan of alpha is actually, let's write a little bit better. This is tan of alpha, and you can see that this is positive, right? And the cotan also, see, when you continue it, you can see that the cotan is also positive, right? Interesting. Okay, and then look at this part. You continue this angle to meet the tan, and you can see that the tan is actually negative. This is the tan of alpha, which you can see this is negative. And look at the cotan. When you continue this to meet the cotan, wow, interestingly, the cotan ends up being also negative. This is the cotan. Oops. The cotan of alpha in this case is also negative. Because as you know, this is the origin. This is the origin for the cotan. These are the origin for the cotan, and this is the origin for the tan actually. These are the origin for the tan. Yeah. And something interesting is that the definition that you know for tan and cotan, as you remember, the tan was actually, the tan of alpha was sine of alpha over cosine of alpha. And as you can see, yes, positive over positive is positive. So it makes sense that the tan is negative, and the cotan is also cosine of alpha over sine of alpha. And so you can see again, the result would match with what you know. Again, in every quarter, you can see that in here, for example, tan of alpha, as you know, is sine of alpha over cosine of alpha, and you can see sine over cosine, it gives you negative in the end, right? One positive over a negative, the answer would be negative, right? The answer ends up being negative, and that's why you can see the tan ends up being negative. The same in here, the cotan actually would be sine of alpha, oh sorry, cosine of alpha over sine of alpha, and of course it is again, as you can see, negative over positive, and the answer again is negative, right? So the cotan is obviously negative. We can see it makes sense. So In every other quarter you can test that and you can see that all of it makes sense. So I like you, as you practice, to repeat everything for yourself, and also find out if it matches the formula in these two quarters as well.